I say it like this. I was in the airport the other day, and I'm embarrassed to say, y'all, it took me about 15 minutes to figure out how to wash my hands. Because, you know, they don't have knobs on the faucets no more. Have y'all noticed this? So, man, I'm sitting in the bathroom. And usually I just kind of watch somebody else, but ain't nobody else in there, so I'm just up in there. It's like I look like I'm dancing. Watch me whip, watch me nay-nay, watch me whip, watch me nay-nay. It's just... Then finally, this guy walk in. Not like I'm just gonna watch him. But then he walk out, his nasty stuff didn't even wash his hands. I was like, that's the last time I travel with Stephen, man. This is the last time I travel with him. Finally, after all of this, I finally just do this. And the water comes out. I just did this. And the water comes out. If you get it early, I won't have to preach as long. I did this. I guess what I'm saying, some of you are waiting on God, and he's saying, if you just do this, then the living water will flow in your life. If you just take a step, you waiting on God to do something in your marriage, if you just do this in your marriage, or some of you, if you just do this, you'll be amazed at how God will show up. Some of you ought to say, your wife ought to say, honey, what did you learn at the conference? Oh, honey, I learned this. She'll probably speak in tongues. She gets so happy. She'll be like, well, praise the Lord. I've been trying to teach you that for 20 years. He extends, and that's when it happens. We see grace, not just disrupted. We see grace invite him into the presence of God, and then we see grace send him out. It's there where God gives him a vision. The reason why you can't give up, men, the reason why we need you to stay on the front line is because there are slaves in Egypt. There are men and women who need to hear. There are men and women who need to see. There are slaves in Egypt. That's why you got to take your shoes off. This isn't some vanity exercise for you to be a better man. No, this grace has come to you so that this grace might go through you. There are some children who are enslaved that need to be set free. And God says, I want to use your mouth. I want to use your love. I want to use your heart. I want to use you to set the captives free. They're slaves in Egypt. That's why you got to leave this weekend with no regrets, because this grace has come to commission you to fulfill his purpose and his mission. Greatest gift I want to give you as I take my seat is, regardless of how hard it is, I know Satan's lie. His lie is to get you to lose hope. His lie is for you to think that it's too late for you. There's some men that came and you got some failure, you messed up big time, and Satan wants you to think that it's too late. You've missed the season. He wants you to think that the game is over. He wants you to think that this is good for those young guys, but for an old guy like me, I'll mess up. Let me tell you something. I don't care what you've done. You ain't messed up no worse than Moses. You ain't been out of the game no longer than Moses. Moses was an old man, but God says, I still got something for you to do, boy. I've got work for you to do. I'm telling you, I know the lie that Satan is telling men in this room, and he's telling you, some of you, it's time to give up. It's time to quit. There's no hope for you. Your failure is too significant. If I don't leave you with anything else, I leave you with this. Grace has come to commission you. Don't you give up on God. He hasn't given up on you. It's not too late. Don't you give up on God. Don't you give up on God. He still, listen, he still wants to use you to do a mighty work in the earth. If there's still a beat in your chest, that means there's still hope in your life. there's still purpose living in there. You still got breath in them lungs. That means you still got purpose in your chest. God's not done with you, sir. God's not done with you, my brother. Now ain't the time for giving up or giving in. I'm telling you, God sent a red Camaro for Greg. He sent a black preacher for you to tell you, don't you give up. 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 I'll close with this. I love telling this story. Bishop Kenneth Ulmer told me this story years ago. I love to tell it everywhere I go. It's the story of two men who walked into a museum in New York City. They walk in this museum, and one man is captivated by this portrait, by this painting, because it's an interesting painting. It's a painting of a chess game. And this chess game has the caption under the bottom, which says checkmate, which is chess terminology for the game is over. Well, this guy is studying it and analyzing. He's studying and he's analyzing, and he's captivated by this painting. And his friend is growing weary. He's like, come on, man, let's go. He's like, no, hold on. And he's studying and he's analyzing and he's studying and he's analyzing. His friend says, the museum is about to close. We got to get out of here. He says, no, wait. And he's studying and he's analyzing and he's studying and he's analyzing. Finally, his friend grows weary. He says, all right, man, I'm leaving. I got to go. He says, no, come here. Look, wait. Look at this painting. He says, yeah, it's a painting of a chess game. What's the big deal? He says, no, look, this painting is wrong. He says, what do you mean the painting is wrong? How can a painting be wrong? It's a painting of a chess game. He says, no, look closer. The painting is wrong. He says, it says checkmate, which means that the game should be over. But if you look closely, you'll see that the king still has one more move. And as long as the king still has one more move, it means the game is not over. That means this picture is wrong. Men, I've come to tell you that I don't care what the devil